While there are a ton of prospects in this 2025 draft that the Chicago Bulls should definitely take a look at, on today's episode, we're going to discuss the potential biggest red flags in this draft and more on today's Locked On Bulls.
You are Locked On Bulls, your daily Chicago Bulls podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for tuning in to Locked On Bulls, member of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every single day. That's Pat, the designer, host, and creator of the Windy City Breeze and host of the Chicago Bears podcast over at ESPN 1000. I'm Hayes, host, creator of Chicago Bulls Central and Chicago Bears Central YouTube pages and podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Pat, let's jump into it for today, man. We got a lot to talk about. Final week before the draft. We're heading into next week's the last week before the draft. But with that said, let's start off here. Who right now are the biggest red flags in this, whether they're red flags overall in the draft, just players that you think are red flags for the Bulls? Who do you think are some of the bigger red flags in this draft right now?
Oh, I think we talked about one yesterday. I'm not gonna lie to you. When you talk about I hate saying his last name without reading it. Come on, Mulsic. Malawak, whatever. You know what it is.
Yeah.
Malawak. To me, I get the upside. I get the belief that he can be something. But we've done this in the draft before. We've gone with the potential guy. And Malawak, to me, I mean, like, he's 7'2". You can't give me 8 rebounds. You know what I mean? Like that to me is one of my bigger concerns looking at this draft. The wonder is if he'll be down there. I know we had that conversation where he's starting to fall in a lot of mock drafts, but I think he's possibly my biggest red flag because measurables, he fits everything you want from a modern day center. He fits everything that you're looking for. Ability to run the floor, he fits everything that you're looking for. But I don't see this ceiling that a lot of people are looking at. And I think he's the one that's the hot name that everybody's like, look at the upside, look at the potential, look at the player that he could be. And I just don't see that in the player that he is right now.
No, and I agree with you there as far as like your concerns there. He's not one of the biggest red flags for me, but he is one. I said it. I don't know if it was shared or if it was over on Central. Like the Bulls sometimes have been a team that have gotten so focused on the ceiling is that they forget to consider the floor, and that's come back to bite them a couple of times. And I think they definitely have to consider the floor of a player like Kaman, especially when you have other players. Like somebody in the comment section asked the other day, is that all right? Well, tell me the difference between drafting Kaman and going after like a Sorber. And I said, well, Sorber has a lot more proven ability defensively. And I would look at it like, while his ceiling may not be as high as they consider Kaman's, his floor is considerably higher than Kaman. So like you'd have to consider the floor in this as well, because you have to get these draft picks right. And so, you know, we'll see what they do there. Now, my biggest red flag is still a center. It's Derek Queen. And I'll say this with this caveat. It's Derek Queen for how this team is currently constructed. Now, if you're telling me that they are moving Coby White and then they get a Queen, my opinion changes completely differently on it. But, Pat, correct me if I'm wrong. How many teams have you seen be highly successful with 3 extremely ball-dominant players on it? Derek Queen had a usage rate of almost 29% last year in college. That's Jokic levels. And it's not that that's necessarily a bad thing in the modern NBA, but you need shooters around it. Him and Jamal Murray work so well because Jamal Murray can space the floor and he can play off the ball. Having Derek Queen, Coby, and Josh Giddey potentially all on the same team just seems like a recipe for we don't have enough balls to go around. Wow, basketballs to go around. That's crazy. There's only so many basketballs that can go around. First of all, if you got too many balls in the room, I don't know what you're doing. But with that said, like that's why Queen is a red flag for me. Looking at what this team is right now, if there were to be a major change, then my opinion may move in that, because the talent of Derek Queen. You've talked about it. You can give me all the measurables, all where he lacks at this, the athleticism and stuff. When you watch this kid play basketball 5-on-5 and somebody's on him, he gives them some work 9 times out of 10. So I don't dislike the player at all, but for this team as currently constructed, I think that could be a flag.
I think where That would be interesting. And I'd say that I don't disagree with your concerns on it. I do think that if you've got that many players, he's not going to be the kind of player that he was in college. But I think that is the question. You know, a lot of the players drafted to the NBA fit a role. Is that you want Derek Queen's skill set, but you want him to be in a role on this team that maybe is not the ball dominant player. Hey, welcome to the NBA, young man. We need you out here for rebounds. We need you out here for defensive ability, and we need you out here to put the ball back into the hole a couple of times when it bounces to you. We're not running plays for you. Now, that wouldn't I wouldn't want to take somebody that high. Again, I think you need to be looking for another player that is going to be a I don't want to say a face that is going to be a big impact player on this team.
Mm-hmm.
But if you believe in Coby, Matas, and Giddy as a group together, you are looking for somebody to just slot in and fit in there.
Yeah. Doesn't mean you don't want still some upside and maybe do some other things, but you want them to bring a certain skill set to this team that we're lacking, right? And like you said, like if you're saying to me that you're going to say Derek Queen is like, hey, you're not going to get the shots that you were. We need you to focus on rebounding defense. That's not necessarily where he's going to thrive at the NBA level, right? Like not right away. So again, I think anytime you call somebody or say like there's some concerns about drafting, they're like, but he's a XYZ talent. It's like, yeah, but you have to think about how that talent fits together. If you don't, that's what got Gar Pax in trouble. They were just drafting, hoping something would stick, didn't really think about how those players fit together. And then you never really got to see the best version of any of those guys. So like, you got to think about that part of it. Outside of just like, again, I like Derek Queen and his talent. Outside of that, for me, Kyler Murray Boyles is still a huge red flag overall in this draft.
That's not even a red flag. Yeah, that's just don't do it.
Yeah, just because like there's so many things that are issue with him. His best position, it looks like it's going to be center at 6'6". That's a bit of a concern. Even at power forward, that's a bit of a concern. The athleticism isn't really there. He had like that THT offense where he was able to get a lot of points because he was able to have a high usage rate and be ball dominant. But when you really look at this game, he really doesn't do very much efficient offensively. So then you're looking at what he can become defensively. And I do think he has an extremely high defensive ceiling. I would not be surprised if CMB ends up being one of those guys that you're like, hey, he's perennially in a defensive player of the year conversation. But the thing is, at 12 for a player that's going to be so limited and one-sided, it's a red flag for there for me as well.
Listen, I think having 6'6" Vooch at the power forward position is not ideal in my mind. Not a much better defender, but on the offensive end, I mean, you literally are talking about a back to the basket player who has a phenomenal hook shot and a nice float game. Like, it's kind of weird when you look at what he's able to do offensively. But the one thing that I will say is, again, I think you have to look at what are the Bulls looking to draft for. I think what me and you are expecting the Bulls to be looking to draft for here with some of the names that we've seen come out may not be what the Bulls are looking to draft for. I mean, with some of the names we've had them attached to, the Bulls sound like they are looking for a role-playing piece.
Yeah.
At 12, which maybe, and I think we also look at it, and we look at the college game, and we're saying, okay, this is how this guy could fit in with what Billy Donovan wants to do. This is how this guy could replace this guy. While I do think the calls are being made on Coby White and stuff like that, and that could be something that happens, and it would be a trade that I would do ahead of the draft. It really feels like with a lot of the prospects that have been attached to the Bulls name that the Bulls are basically saying, we want to put somebody into this offense that has tremendous athletic ability and upside, but who basically comes in and plays his role, does his job, and doesn't get in the way of the other guys. Like, that's where this draft is going to get interesting in my mind if the Chicago Bulls do go out there, because who is that player? And are you going to be sitting here in 5 years, very similar to where we are now, going, we could have had Tyrese Halliburton. Instead, we took Derek Queen. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But and like I said, I don't want to knock even Kyler Murray Boyles. I think if he goes to the right team, he could be a dog. But it's like all the things that overlap as concerns there for him. For me, it's just like, I don't know if that's where the Bulls' risk tolerance is right now. CMB to me feels like one of these teams that were in the playoffs that somehow wound up with a lottery pick. He's going to be perfect for one of those teams. He's going to be absolutely perfect for one of those teams.
I feel like he's got to be a better passer at the next level for his size to impact. Because when you see guys who are like, he's essentially a power forward. When you see guys who are like undersized power forwards, kind of where he is, I think of the Draymond Greens and stuff like that, right? Like the defensive ability, you're going to be playing some fives. You're going to be, because of his strength, he's going to be playing on some fives. Like you got to be able to move the basketball around. You got to be able to facilitate. And that really hasn't been his game in college. Not to say he can't do it.
He hasn't had to do it either because his job was to dribble the air out the ball. So
you ain't lying. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening at the next level. But I think it's going to be interesting to see how he adjusts to that.
Facts. I agree with you on that one. Well, we're going to continue the conversation, see if there are any more red flags. We're also going to talk about the lead up to the final week before the NBA draft. But first, we got to get to a message from OLIPOP. OLIPOP is a new kind of soda made for people who love the classic taste of soda but want something that supports their health. With just 2 to 5 grams of sugar and 9 grams of prebiotic fiber in every can, OLIPOP is reimagining soda in a way that's better for your gut. Traditional sodas are loaded with sugar, like 39 grams in a regular Coke or 44 grams in an orange Fanta, which happens to be my favorite soda. Thank you, OLIPOP, for that. OLIPOP flips that script with just a fraction of the sugar, no artificial sweeteners, and gut-friendly ingredients like OliSmart, a blend shown to support digestive and overall health. It's a soda that tastes like the real thing, but actually does something good for your body. And I can tell you through my me having OLIPOP, when they sent us out some samples there, it tastes amazing. And while there's a little bit of a way that you have to adapt to it, I think that for people who are looking for the taste of soda without having as much sugar, OLIPOP gives you that wholeheartedly. What's the flavor that you'll try first? Is it cherry cola, classic grape, or maybe Dr. Goodwin, their Dr. Pepper duplicate? Get a free can of OLIPOP. Just buy any 2 cans in the store and they'll reimburse you for one. Head to drinkolipop.com/LockedOnNBA to claim your free can and find OLIPOP near you. That's drinkolipop.com/LockedOnNBA. More Locked On Bulls coming up next.
What was that doctor's name? What was that?
Dr. Goodwin.
What is he fixing?
I don't know. It sounds like the doctor out of like a Resident Evil movie, bro. I don't know, bro.
Dr. Goodwin getting you right. I ain't gonna lie to you, bro. I learned a lot about them OLIPOPs. Y'all be careful when y'all get them, because you gonna get them. They are really good. They're really good. Read up on what a prebiotic does to the human body. I learned a new word after drinking about 3 of those, trying to cut the grass, bro.
You regular, huh?
Hey, listen. Clean as a whistle and ready for love, my boy.
With that said, are there any other red flags? I know that we kind of ended that segment. Were there any other red flags in here potentially for the Bulls that you wanted to bring up before we get off that topic?
I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, I think a lot of the players in the Bulls range don't really stand out as red flags for me. We kind of really hit on a lot of them. The players that they need and kind of where the Bulls are going. Now, Kyler Murray Boys is the biggest one, but like the players that they need and kind of where the Bulls have been going and the names attached to them, I don't hate any of the names there. I guess outside of Kyler Murray Boys, that's kind of the one that that's
the one that I hate.
I'm like, please don't
dislike Derek Queen. I just got a question on how that's going to fit. Like, I actively do not want to see Kyler Murray Boyles on this Bulls team.
Because even like the Derek Queen conversation, right? Like to me, with Derek Queen has all the talent.
Yeah.
And I can live with you taking a chance on a talented player that has a ton of upside, and you say, hey, we're going to bring you back down to earth a little bit, and maybe you'll get to show everything that you wanted to show in college. That's just the NBA, though. Like, you think about it, 99% of the players in the NBA play a role. Like, you running around, you getting 4 or 5 shots a game. You're sitting there, hey, you make sure you rebound. Like, nobody who's getting drafted right now is getting the amount of shots that Coby, Matas, and Giddey are getting. Nobody who's coming in.
Yeah, nobody. And they may not even play a lot right away. This is still a Billy Donovan coach team. So let's be clear. Almost any rookie that we draft is probably going to start off the season on the bench. Now, hopefully they have a plan like they did with Matas, to where their role increases over the year and they're not just withering away on the end of the bench. But I think that if anybody's thinking, no matter who we are, no matter how high their ceiling is, no matter how high you are on them, keep in mind, they're very unlikely to start or play a lot of minutes for this Bulls team starting off on the season.
Yeah, and I think I'll ask you this. If you go big man, especially with everything that we've seen around Vooch, do you think he still starts on the bench? Because really you're starting with Zach Collins and Sticks. That's not a better
Yeah, I still think the veteranship and the fact that even that you don't have to worry about the learning curve there. Even if we trade Vooch, I don't think there's any way that a center that we draft starts unless there's like a training camp injury or something like that. That's my personal opinion.
Listen, I don't disagree with you. I can't disagree with you because every rookie that came in, Dalen Terry's still the least played 18th overall pick of all time. He finally getting minutes.
I mean, shout out to Dalen. He actually did look like an NBA player.
He looked like an NBA player last year. I give Dalen this credit.
Yeah, so
he was not as cheeky.
Cheeky is crazy. All right, so let's flip this conversation. Right, next week is the last week before the draft. We are exactly 12 days away from the NBA draft. So this is the last full week going into next week. So before we go into that, going into the weekend, right now, Pat, who's the top 3 on your draft board? Realistically, that you think is going to be there for the Bulls at number 12?
I haven't seen a lot of movement on a lot of these draft boards on Cedric Coward. In fact, I've seen him actually lower than the Bulls.
Well, No Ceilings does have the Bulls taking him in their recent mock that just updated, I think, like yesterday.
I love that. And I think he'll be right around that range. He's still my number 1. I think when you talk about a player who, now again, I do think that he's my number 1 with the Coby conversation being what it has been. Now, again, I don't think that he comes in and right away comes into the starting lineup and is dominant. I think what you're probably going to see in his rookie year is a young player who's dominating off of the bench, and the Bulls probably end up making some moves in the season if he does that. But oh my God, Hayes, like Ayo and Cedric Coward coming off of the bench on the defensive end. Cedric Coward being able to come off of the screen, knock that shot down. He's my number 1. I've still got Thomas Sorber number 2. That to me, I think is just the highest floor player you can get that just fits in. Like Thomas Sorber would, in my mind, it would be like you're holding Thomas Sorber back if you didn't send him out there to start.
I feel you. No,
literally, I'd be like, come on, bro. Like, he's already a starter. And then number 3 for me on the board. Number 3 is where it gets tough for me, dog. Because I do like I know he's a red flag guy for you, but the upside of Derek Queen is enticing. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the conversation around Danny Wolf is. Maybe this is a personal thing for me, but I think he's got an immense amount of game. Maybe they're seeing something that they don't like. I don't know.
No, I think he's actually been rising up some mocks here recently as Danny Wolf. I think he actually rose up in the Ringers mock that they updated this week. I think they have him going actually to the Atlanta Hawks at number 13, I believe.
I'm not Danny mistaken. Wolf with braids. God dang it.
That's don't let him hang out with Chet.
He's gonna be getting a taper fade on the sidelines.
That's crazy. That's crazy. No, but so my top 3. Thomas Sorber's number 1 for me. I just think like what the Bulls need, he brings all of that. Legit 265 pounds, legit center size right away, and does not move slow-footed at all as far as what you need from a center. So Thomas Sorber's number 1 for me. I think that Asa Newell's right behind. Asa Newell's probably 3rd for me on that list. And then maybe I'm just drinking the Kool-Aid, bro. And maybe I've been watching too much tape, but Drake, I love the concept of Drake Powell and Matas Buzelis as your 3-4 long term, bro. You can sign me up for that one. And Cedric Coward would be right outside of that. But those are the 3 players that I love a lot. Like Thomas Sorber, Drake Powell, Asa Newell. I love those 3 guys a lot. And like I said, I can admit I might be drinking the Kool-Aid a little bit too much on Drake Powell because I've been watching a lot of Drake Powell tape since they had a workout with them. But those are probably my 3 players right now.
What is the interesting thing for me with Drake Powell is like I love the athleticism. I love the defense. I love what he brings. I think that he's probably the best athlete in this draft. He's probably best athlete in this draft. Didn't he have a 44-inch vertical?
Yeah, he may be the best athlete in this draft. I don't think that's a wild statement there.
Here's what scares me about him though, and when watching the tape and going back and looking at him in college. I see, and this is literally P. Will. I see P. Will mentality. I see too many times.
Now that's the concern.
He's very content just being on the court.
P. Will skill set is not the concern. P. Will I love that you pointed out. P. Will mentality will be a huge concern. I personally didn't see that, but like I said, I'm admitting I could very well just be lost in the sauce right now because I watched 52 Derek Powell possessions yesterday.
That's a good day.
So like that's I watched 52 Derek Powell possessions, and then I watched like 20 something on Cedric Coward, but that was like back like watching Cedric Coward possessions are so difficult because his role was so different his first 2 years than what it was last year before he went down. So it's difficult to get a lot of possession views in there for Cedric Coward. But yeah. So but I mean, listen, I think this is the thing. The Bulls, and I know saying this is like Darren AK. I don't think the Bulls could get this wrong, bro. I really, there's so many prospects that make sense for the Chicago Bulls, bro. Like, please don't get this wrong, bro.
The Chicago Bulls draft Whitey White Man from White Man State.
That's crazy.
He comes in at 5'6",
and he's the center.
7'9" wingspan.
He's the center. He
can touch the floor with his arms.
That is crazy. He can touch the floor standing straight up. And no, that's not a good thing. That's crazy.
Oh, bro. Like, listen, there's a lot of players I see upside in. It's why I wanted the Bulls to get back into this draft. It's why I wanted the Bulls to trade Lonzo Ball for the 18th overall pick there. But like, because I think this is a draft that you build. Like, Brooklyn is going to build a team. Mm-hmm. Unless they just trade most of these, Brooklyn is going to build a really nice team if they don't F this up. You literally can go through and draft your point guard of the future, your shooting guard of the future, your center and power forward in this draft.
Yeah, could be.
And the one thing that I do have a little bit of faith on with AK, and a very little bit of amount of it, is I think the second round and undrafted market is going to be a very good market this year. And AK usually finds some nice pieces that you can see fitting in that sometimes just don't make it because of team construction or whatever it is.
Yeah. I agree with you there. I definitely agree with you there.
So, hey, man, but before we do that, oh, dang, hold on. I just thought...
You just thought about the fact you had an ad read, huh?
Hey, brother, listen, this how you do it, though. You just keep talking about the Chicago Bulls, and you let the people believe that nothing's going wrong here and everything is perfect. And then you end up having a conversation about FanDuel. Game 4 of the NBA playoffs is tonight, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments, whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player. There's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. Listen, which players are showing up in the biggest moments? We know Tyrese Halliburton could be somebody to watch for. He seems like all of a sudden he wants to take shots. What would it look like to combine a live player prop or bet mid-game based on how the action unfolds? Do you like a little Tyrese, Pascal Siakam action together? Listen, how could a $200 bonus bet, $200 bonus in bets add to the excitement in your first $5 bet hits? If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If that bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. More Locked On Bulls coming up next.
You rebounded there nicely, Pat. I got to give you your credit. You're a professional.
Listen, I know what I'm doing a little bit. I literally was like, oh, wait. This is how we get paid.
That is hilarious. All right, Pat, before we get out of here, man, I know this is not Bulls related, but hey, sometimes you gotta veer off the beaten path. The NBA Finals today, Game 4. The Pacers up 2-1 over the Oklahoma City Thunder. What are your predictions for Game 4?
I'm gonna be honest with you, dog. Like, Indiana's lost one playoff game at home to this point. I was stunned at the effort that we saw yesterday. Maybe this will be the time where my prediction goes wrong, but I actually think Indiana goes up 3-1 tonight. I actually think that Indiana, the job that Rick Carlisle has done, excuse me, needs to be applauded. And the mentality that he has his team playing with needs to be applauded. And I think when you talk about teams, and I get it, like OKC has Alex Caruso, but when you talk about championship experience, championship culture, and having a championship level player on your team. You've got all three of those with what the Indiana Pacers are doing, with Rick Carlisle being on his team, with Pascal Siakam. I came into this saying OKC in 3. I thought this was going to be a wash series, and we were going to be talking about this as we just walked away. Indiana's got me believing. I guess I'm on with the yes sirs. And his dad got to just wear some sweatpants, dog. Them jeans was crazy.
Bro, the jeans was crazy,
nuts, bro.
Them jeans were crazy. He's had those jeans since the 60s, bro. Them same jeans.
But yeah, man, I got Pacers 3-1 tonight.
I'll tell you what, like this is a must win for the Thunder, because if you lose this game, then that means you have to win 3 in a row against the Indiana Pacers. And while you're a better team than the Pacers on paper, this is why in this type of scenario in the playoffs, and especially in the finals where you're playing a team and you have 2 days of game planning in between, coaching matters. And so Rick Carlisle is one of the best X and O's coaches in the league. And the Pacers are a team that go deep. They never, they don't stop. Like, they play a full 48 minutes of basketball and they just keep chipping away at things. So like, if you go down 3-1, you have to win 3 games in a row at that point. If you can make this 2-2, then it comes a best of 3 series. Who can win 2 games out of 3, right? That's what it becomes. And that's what the Thunder have to do in this game. But I tell you what, the Pacers at home are dangerous. And that's why after game 2, when the Thunder won big, people almost were talking about it like the Pacers lost the momentum. I'm like, you guys forget the Pacers did exactly what they needed to do. They only had to steal 1 game in OKC before they go back home, because they're one of the best home teams in this playoff. So I'm going to say that the Thunder win this one mainly because they have to. But I could see a world in which the Pacers win this game. And if they do, at that point, they're going to win the finals. Because I just don't trust the Thunder to beat them 3 games in a row. The Pacers have been they're like the roaches of the NBA. They just do not go away, bro. They do not go away.
They're the roaches.
They're going to survive everything, bro. So yeah, I also love that this finals, for people who counted it out before it began, has been so entertaining. Through like the first game, buzzer beater. The second game was more of a one-sided game, but that was still interesting. Game 3, there were back and forth runs throughout the entirety of that game. This has been one of the most exciting basketball series to watch in the finals in a while. And I don't know if you saw it or not, but they first game started off like the ratings were a little bit low. They're starting to break records now, and I'm glad that people are starting to realize there's some good quality basketball. Adam Silver is happy as hell right now.
Oh yeah, listen, and I think what it comes down to is the fact that you've got one team on one side that won't quit, and another team on the other side that didn't expect them to not quit. Like you got two Goliaths going at it. I think even when you look at, I think this Pacer game game 3, I should say, kind of evened it out. It made you feel a lot better about it. The Pacers had only played 4 minutes of good basketball in OKC, basically.
Mm-hmm.
They played their best basketball by far in Indiana. So I think if you can go up 3-1, knowing you're coming back to Indiana, there's a big opportunity there for you. And it's so crazy. They've just gotten the job done. You go to OKC, we just need a split. We don't need to win both. We just need a split.
Yeah.
You got your split. You come back home, you got an opportunity to go up 3-1 because you got your split and you took game 3. Like, we'll see what ends up happening tonight, man. But I think OKC's got to be a little bit nervous right now with where this thing goes. I want 7. I'm not ready for NBA basketball to end, though. Let's go 7.
Yeah. Let's see what we can do, man. Any last thoughts, Pat, before we get up out of here?
Nah, man, that's it. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love as always. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page, leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Follow us on everything at Locked On Bulls. You can follow me on everything at Pat the Designer.
Absolutely. You guys can follow me at CEO Hayes. Locked On Bulls is free and available on every podcasting app and platform of your choice, as well as YouTube, the Odyssey app, Amazon Fire TV, Roku TV, Fubo TV.
Yeah, I like Fubo TV better.
I like Fubo TV better too, but Fubo TV, basically anywhere you want us, you can get it. We'll see you guys bright and early Monday morning, y'all. Love you guys. Peace.
Peace.